I am Sara Moccand-Sayegh, and this is SEO in 2023.
Sara, what's your number one SEO tip for 2023?
To check the SERP.
To check the SERP. What are you checking the SERP for?
So it's so important because we have tools that support us often for that, the first thing, and sometimes they don't give all the information. So some tools, for example, that I use and are quite comfortable with, will not give me position 0. But then you want to know what is on position 0. And they will start, for example, from position 1. But I mean, before position 1, you have position 0. In between, you have so many other features. So it's always better to check.
So by position 0, are you talking about a rich snippet at the top? Are you talking about a local pack? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I was speaking about a rich snippet. So yes, it's about that. It's a lot about checking the SERP. I have like some example of that were like very useful, not just because of the tip. So I was doing some tests on myself. Okay, because I mean, it's more easy to test on yourself sometimes than on clients. So I did some tests on myself and I realized then there was something weird, like in the images, maybe a difficulty in understanding the images, and that I was able to see it just because I was checking the SERP. So for example, I remember there was once my presentation, I did, I don't remember, maybe Brighton, or I don't remember, one presentation, and they literally changed the picture of my presentation. So I had the presentation with a picture and there was another picture of me on the presentation. And I was like, what's that? And then sadly, I never did a print screen. Okay, that it was my mistake. And when I went back, it was normal. So I lost the opportunity there, but that gave me an indication. Another indication, it was once like, but that I print screened it, that I had like these images of mine, and on each image you had the source. Like this is coming from Twitter, this is coming from the other one. So you always had the source, which also that it was weird for me to see.
Okay, so you analyze the SERP for different results, and then you actually go behind the SERP to see where Google's getting its information from.
Yes, exactly. Because that is what helps you also progress, analyze, understand the system, because that is also part of the job, to try to figure out how the system is working and why it's doing some things. So, for example, in my case, is why it is questioning all this about the images.
So what trends are you seeing at the moment in terms of where Google is more likely to get their information from compared with perhaps a couple of years ago?
But now there is all the system of machine learning now, obviously. So we have all the entities. So they are creating all the connections. So obviously that is like the main driver that they have. But then you still have to create the entity. You still have to understand the system. So the system have to have their MRID. So I think that is like part of all the tests they do, is try to better understand. It's all about understanding.
Okay, so how do you give Google greater confidence about who your entity is, what it represents, why it should be authoritative in a particular field?
So, that is the tricky one. So that I think that is a big part of the job. Jason Bernard for sure is more expert than I am on that, but he's my coach. So I think then a lot is about giving constant information. Not give completely different information on one side and the other one.
Okay, so be consistent.
Yeah, that is the word that I was looking for. Thank you. Be consistent in the information. There are obviously some things that can help understanding, which obviously is schema.
Mm-hmm. So sorry, in terms of be consistent, are you talking about being consistent on all your social profiles and all the kind of wiki sites? Are there any particular sites that you feel are more essential to be on as your entity?
Okay, so obviously now when we are on the wiki is the dream, no? Everybody wants to be on the wiki, and that is like Wikidata, Wikipedia, so everybody wants to do that. But by experience, it's not that easy. And second thing, the community is very strong. They check a lot. The community check a lot the new collaborate for the community.
Understood.
So I feel that sometimes SEO want to be smart and they are very counterproductive when they go on adding information, adding their profile on Wikidata, for example.
So essentially what you're saying is many people make the mistake of starting with the end in mind, i.e. they'd love a listing in a prominent wiki website, but their entity, i.e. their brand, isn't consistent across many other areas online, perhaps on social media, perhaps even their own site. So they need to come up with consistent descriptions of their brand and their entity homepage before they attempt to get listings in prominent sites.
I see the entity homepage. Yes, it's exactly that. So yes, you got it correct. So I think then the difficulty is then a lot of people go directly on Wikidata, for example, want to achieve that. So they directly go on that, when in the reality, probably that have to be your final goal. Once you achieve a notoriety, then you are really notable. So they have to be your final goal. But before arriving to that, you still need all the rest. So you still need exactly to be consistent, for example, as you say, in your social network, in your company profile, in all over. So this is something very difficult. And then if you are a person, probably create your own brand, and when you have your own brand and your brand is strong enough, then you can think, okay, let's maybe go on Wikidata, on Wikipedia, or whatever you want.
So do you believe that every blog author on a corporate website should also be trying to create their own personal brand? And if so, what does creating their personal brand actually mean nowadays? Do they have to have their own domain name? Is it sufficient to be prominent on different social sites or YouTube? Do you go through the same steps to enhance their personal brand entity?
So what I've noticed is that, but again, maybe Jason on that can correct me, but this is what I've noticed. So there are a couple of social networks that are particularly important, and I have seen some exception, like people which they do not have really their website, but are super well known, and they still have, for example, a knowledge panel, okay, and they are very well known on some social network. But that is most of the time is an exception. No? So you were speaking about entity house, which normally you have it in your website. And that is the most important thing, not only is to have your own website and everything goes around your website. So in your website, you are confirming the information that are outside.
So in other words, each blog post author on a corporate website need to have a decent single page about that individual author, and that should be the entity home. That should be the personal brand home.
So in a corporate website, you are saying, or you can have your, because for example...
Yeah. I mean, you using a corporate website, using a business website as an example.
Okay.
So if they're publishing articles on a regular basis on their company blog, and obviously their article is associated with their name, many blogs nowadays probably don't bother to build a personal profile for that author on the website. Are you saying it's essential to have that personal profile on the business website?
So, for example, I can give my example. I work for a company which does that. I wrote little blog post, but they do it. And what you can see is then directly, if you write my name on Google, what will happen is that page with information about me and the list of blog posts connected will come out. So somehow that is clearly important.
So I've searched your name, and actually the first result is Twitter. And the second result is Moccand-Sayegh Sara.
My website.
Sara.ch. Exactly. That's your personal website, yeah.
So for me, the entity house, in my case, is my website. Because it's that one that I've used with the about page that I'm using to confirm the information and create consistency on the web. But that is because I'm a person and it's about me and I'm doing some test. Okay, so that is all about the test that I'm doing. But then if you have a corporate website, for example, like in the case of the company where I work, that also helps the fact that I have one page with my name, with some explanation and the blog post that I wrote.
Is it perhaps just as effective to have your LinkedIn profile as your personal home, or is it always going to be more beneficial to have your own domain name?
So I was checking the other day Aleida Solis, and what I realized, she has her knowledge panel, and in her knowledge panel she has like the information are taken from LinkedIn. Okay. So that means for me LinkedIn is super important. Do your profile really well and be consistent also in that profile. But I still think then from whatever they take it, then Google take it, they still need to confirm all the time the information. No? So having your own website with your domain and your information inside can be a double check on what other people say on the web. So it's like, okay, is that correct? Okay, we can see it here in your domain and we can see it outside. So you have like a confirmation of what you're saying.
Understood. Okay, and if someone wanted to get started with building their personal brand and they really haven't done anything yet, they're just not ranking for their name at all, what are a few initial steps that you would recommend to do that?
So I think that, what helped me, it was start to speak. Start to speak at some conference. He helped me my Twitter profile, and is the one that you find first of all. I think then I don't have a lot of followers. I think then I have like 1,000 followers or something like this in Twitter. So it's not like the huge profile of Twitter, but is very targeted. And with the people, a lot of SEO, I tweet regularly. I interact a lot with people. So I think then the fact Twitter somehow is important. So the fact then you start to have like your Twitter profile, then you interact, you use correctly your social network in a certain sense, your LinkedIn profile. So that can help. Moreover to that, if you start probably speaking at webinar or like I'm doing now or things like this, it probably helps build your own brand and the understanding. So all the information about you on the web.
So you've shared what SEOs should be doing in 2023, building their brand entities, and that's corporate brand entities and personal brand entities. But now let's talk about what SEOs shouldn't be doing. So what's something that's seductive in terms of time, but ultimately counterproductive? What's something that SEOs shouldn't be doing in 2023?
So I don't know if it is something they shouldn't be doing, but it's something that I sometimes have the feeling that SEO are a bit obsessed, and is the core web vitals. They're super important, I don't know. They are somehow important, but for example, spending hours of the developers, spending hours and hours to arrive to a perfect score, like let's be less than 2.5 seconds for the large contentful page. If you're...
But they don't have any content or links.
Okay, cool, but yes, check also the rest. Even if your average is still okay, and especially if your competitors are not doing great, no?
Sara Moccand-Sayegh is an SEO specialist over at Leap, and you can find her over at leap.ch. That's LIIP.ch. Sara, thanks so much for being part of SEO in 2023.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much, David.
Get your copy of SEO in 2023, the book, over at SEOin2023.com.